Hello. Let's fix these. Hello, my name is Julia Farmer, and we'll be talking about social justice today. Please grab yourself a nice drink. I got myself some chamomile tea, and maybe a snack as well. Get comfy. So today we're gonna start off with my interview. I interviewed the teacher Samuel Goya, and because I've always enjoyed his presence as a social worker, as a professor, and we were actually able to go to a little convention together last year, talking about the different bachelor's and master's programs available for social work. And so I have a good trust with him. And so we started off our interview asking the question, how do you define social justice? Now, if you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at my notes. I'm still paying attention. He defines social justice as a condition where people's needs are being met with a focus on rectifying injustice and on those who are most in need. He also said that there is justice in fairness, and it should be thought about in terms of different systems, and all of this social justice work should be focused on the roots of where the injustice started. I think listening to him talk about this, I completely agree that justice is something where you need to start at the roots of where injustice began, and because from there you can figure out how it all started and how it has formed our systems and how it has formed thought processes, for instance, racial justice. The roots are white supremacy. And so looking at these roots and looking at the history that it has been involved in, gaining that justice is going to take a long time, because you have to change your colonialist mindset. And just being raised in this society, that's the kind of mindset that you are going to have automatically. And so it's a lot about vulnerability. This is I know I'm kind of jumping to my definition. I'll explain it more at the end of the video, but I think vulnerability is going to be the source of where true justice happens. Finding that vulnerability to not be so angry and so shameful, to finding the truth amongst a bunch of people, and being vulnerable means being courageous and being able to do something that's not like an easy choice. It's not just going with how society is. And I think for me, social justice starts with that vulnerability. Going back to this interview with Sam, we also talked about, I asked him, do you think social justice is the same across the board, or does the definition change depending on the situation? And we both agreed that it's different, and he said that the core principles of social justice starts through dialogue of differences, and that it can change from person to person. Within our conversation, we also talked about Gandhian's approach, the Gandhian approach. Gandhian theory emphasized social justice as fairness to the individual with priority to disadvantaged people. And there's different core principles of Gandhian ethics that I'll go over in a little bit, but one of the main things we talked about in my interview with Sam is how there's a collective truth. You know, there's not just going to be one person's truth. To finding truth, you must find it through dialogue and finding the truth within everybody's minds and not just one kind of person's mind. There is a collaborative truth, and in Gandhian's in the core principles of Gandhian ethics, this collaborative truth is called Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya. I'm so sorry for mispronouncing that. Oh my goodness. No, it's not Sarvodaya. It is Satyagraha. And this is the collaborative truth, and social change will be found in this collaborative truth and talking to a bunch of people and listening to a bunch of people. I think the problem in our society right now is that people only want to hear their voice or voices that sound like them. And in our society, that has created a large amount of division, and the main part of the Gandhian approach is unity, and finding everyone's truth and finding that middle ground, and also just like being okay with the discomfort of difference. So I'm kind of jumping all over the place with this. Sorry about that. But yeah, so going back to that interview with Sam thought it was very important that starting this dialogue will start this ripple effect, because when you get one group of people comfortable, vulnerable enough to talk about these kind of things with each other, then they'll talk to more people, and they'll talk to more people, and then there's going to be conferences, and then there's going to be action. And so Sam believes that this action starts with dialogue. And I agree with that, but I also think that it's not just dialogue. It's actually actively making change through entire communities. And this can't just be done through, one person. This is a community. And another part of what my definition of social justice is, The first part being vulnerability. The second part is community. I think when we find that community and we find that unity within everyone, we are more able to listen to the problems that are happening in people's lives, and we are more able to just have conversations about these things, and more able to do something and not just say something. There's a lot of performativism in what we see social justice as, like on social media, like on Instagram and TikTok, and I play parts in that as well. Doing this performative act, it's just not, it's not enough, I think it's important for the discussion, and it leads to more discussion, but it's not enough. I think real social justice is not just dialogue. It's not just showing everyone that you support Black Lives Matter. It's not just showing everyone that you support gay rights, It's about doing something to support and not just showing. And yeah, so I found some other social justice definitions. In Sam and I's conversation, we talked about the grand challenges for social work, and I didn't find their definition, but I found out how they practice social justice, and there were 3 things. This is a direct quote. Harness social work science and knowledge base, collaborate with individuals, community-based organizations, and professionals from all fields and disciplines, and work together to tackle some of our toughest social problems. I found another definition from an organization called Bioneers, which is an organization fighting for climate change or climate justice. And their definition of social change is striding towards a progressive change and building on these demands for another world. And this another world is one based on racial justice, universal human rights, fairness, genuine grassroots democracy, and beyond. So in a lot of these definitions, you see a lot about, just genuine fairness. And I also saw a lot over Bioneers and the grand challenges for social work, and with the conversation between Sam and I and with Gandhi, there's a lot about community. And so that just takes me back to my definition. And my definition is bringing together a community of people for equal discussion, a focus on marginalized groups, and the vulnerability to share and have this discussion and do this action, because it takes a lot of vulnerability to act against injustice. It takes a lot of vulnerability to talk against injustice. It takes vulnerability to speak truth and to listen truth and to change your mindset consistently through this community. And so through community and vulnerability. That is how I would define social justice. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed a nice cup of whatever you were drinking. Unless you weren't, which is perfectly fine. I'd urge you to look at the clouds. Today they're a bit gray, but they're quite lovely. You have a lovely rest of your day, Andre.